It begins in the ice, a world of silence and ghosts. A single figure trudges through the frozen wasteland, his skin cracked like marble, his breath a whisper of steam. This is the creature, and by the time Frankenstein, 2025, reaches this moment, he's no longer just a monster. He's something else entirely. Guillermo del Toro's adaptation of Frankenstein reimagines Mary Shelley's 1818 classic not as a Gothic horror about man's arrogance, but as a haunting reflection on forgiveness, loneliness, and what it truly means to be alive. The film, which premiered globally on Netflix on November 7, 2025, takes the bones of Shelley's novel and gives them new life, literally. At its heart lies Victor Frankenstein, Oscar Isaac, a man driven by grief and obsession. After losing his mother and later his brother William, Victor becomes consumed by the idea of reversing death itself. He builds a body, piece by piece, stitching together hope and hubris. And from that storm of ambition he births the creature, Jacob Elordi. But what begins as creation quickly becomes condemnation. Terrified of what he's made, Victor abandons his work, and the creature, intelligent, childlike, desperate to be loved, is cast into a world that fears him. Del Toro's version emphasizes this tragedy. The monster isn't evil. He's lonely. The journey to the Arctic. Years later, after the deaths of his young brother and his beloved Elizabeth, Mia Goth, Victor's guilt turns to fury. Convinced the creature is responsible, he vows to hunt him down, a chase that becomes less about justice and more about penance. His pursuit leads him north, past civilization, into the endless white void of the Arctic. By the time a group of stranded sailors discovers him, Victor is barely alive. Their captain, Anderson, Lars Mikkelsen, pulls him aboard their ice-locked ship, where the scientist begins recounting his story, the birth of the creature, his rejection, and the spiral of death that followed. But before Victor can finish, the door creaks open, and the creature steps onto the deck. He has followed his maker to the ends of the earth, not to kill him, but to speak. The confrontation, what follows isn't a fight, but a confession. Two broken beings, facing the ghosts they created in each other. The creature tells his story, the years spent hiding in forests, watching families he could never join, the beatings, the fear, the hatred, and the ache of knowing his only family, his creator, turned away from him. Victor listens. For the first time, he truly hears the pain behind the horror. The man who tried to play God finally sees the human being he abandoned. His anger collapses into guilt, and guilt into grief. He apologizes, haltingly, desperately, and begs forgiveness. Then, in one of Del Toro's most intimate scenes,
I forgive you.
Victor asks his creation to keep living. You were meant to be more than me, he says, before his body finally gives in to the cold. Where does the creature go? After Victor's death, the ship begins to crack beneath the pressure of the surrounding ice. The sailors panic, they're trapped. And then, the creature acts. In a final gesture of compassion, he hauls the massive vessel free, his enormous hands breaking through the frozen crust until the ship drifts once more into open water. The sailors stare in awe as the silent figure watches them go. As dawn breaks over the Arctic, the creature turns away from the departing ship and faces the horizon. He steps off the ice shelf, walking slowly toward the rising sun. The film lingers, no dialogue, no music, just wind, light, and the sound of snow beneath his feet. He doesn't die. He doesn't vanish. He simply goes on. That's where the creature goes. He remains in the Arctic, wandering toward the warmth of the sunrise, not to escape, but to live. His smile, faint and human, says everything. The monster who once sought love has found peace, not in another's acceptance, but in his own. How the film's ending differs from the book. In Mary Shelley's original novel, the ending is much bleaker. Victor dies aboard the ship, just as he does in the film. But when the creature arrives, it's already too late. Overcome with sorrow, he vows to destroy himself, promising to build a funeral pyre and burn his body to ash. Shelley's creature sees death as the only escape from misery. His story ends in tragedy and fire. Del Toro turns that fire into light. His creature cannot die. He is immortal, and his immortality is no longer a curse but a chance for redemption. Rather than ending with death, Frankenstein, 2025, ends with endurance. Where Shelley's story closes in despair, Del Toro's opens a door, suggesting that even in imperfection there is beauty. What the ending means, Del Toro's Frankenstein is about survival, emotional, spiritual, and physical. The rising sun in the final shot is more than a backdrop. It's a symbol of rebirth. For the first time, the creature chooses his own path. He's no longer running from humanity or chasing his creator. He's walking toward life. The director reinforces this theme with a closing quote from Lord Byron's Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. "The heart will break, and yet brokenly live on." That line defines the film's entire philosophy. To live is to break and keep going, to find meaning even in pain. The creature, once defined by rejection, becomes the embodiment of that truth. And there's another layer. Victor's fractured relationship with his father, Baron Leopold Frankenstein, Charles Dance, casts a long shadow over the story. His need to control, to perfect, to create, echoes the emotional neglect he suffered as a son. By forgiving Victor, the creature breaks that generational curse. In forgiving his father, the son finally grows up. Guillermo del Toro on his ending. In an interview with Man of Many, October 2025, del Toro explained why he reshaped the classic finale. "The movie has a circular structure," he said. "It starts with the sun rising on the captain and ends with the sun rising on the creature. If he's going to live forever, can he still welcome the sun? Can he still welcome being alive?" For del Toro, that question isn't just poetic, it's the key to the story. "Imperfection is the condition of life," he continued. "You will lead an imperfect life." The movie makes peace with that, with forgiveness, with what it is to be human, which is to be capable of seeing the other. That's why the final image feels so hauntingly hopeful. The creature, immortal and imperfect, walks into the sunrise not as a monster, not as a man, but as something beautifully in between, a survivor. Del Toro called it one of my most hopeful endings, in a strange way. Final reflection. So where does the creature go? He doesn't return to civilization. He doesn't vanish into myth. He walks on, through the endless white of the Arctic, into the golden light of a new day. In Shelley's version, fire consumes him. In del Toro's, the sun redeems him. The final shot leaves us with a sense of quiet awe, a figure born from death, carrying the lessons of his maker, moving forward into eternity. It's not a conclusion, it's a beginning. Because in del Toro's Frankenstein, nay, the real miracle isn't that man creates life. It's that life, once created, learns how to forgive.